right, welcome back everyone to our Atlas Q&A video series. So this month we're going to focus a little bit on marketing budgets and common roadblocks. So, I've been in this space since 2012, and I know that Gabby's been with us for a little while now too. So as the two quote unquote digital marketing professionals on the team, wanted to take a couple of minutes to just talk through some digital marketing, what we recommend, and just some, common issues that we run into that hopefully we can help you avoid. So the first one, and I would say, first question I'm going to ask, this is posing it to Gabby and myself, talking to myself, is if we were to recommend one form of digital marketing out of all of them, out of Facebook ad, out of LinkedIn, out of Google, out of, all of these ad avenues out there, which one would we recommend? And I think I can speak on behalf of Gabby and Atlas as a whole that, the first one we always recommend is Google Ads. And very specifically the search network, and here's why. And Gabby, chime in whenever you have something additional to say. With Google Ads, everybody knows there's the different ad networks. There's the search network, the display network, there's YouTube, there's shopping ads. But what we found in our experience is that the search ads tend to perform better. And when I say perform better, more conversions, more click-through rate, higher click-through rates, and in general, it just connects a business directly with somebody who is searching for their product or service. So all things equal, if I think we were to pick one thing to recommend to a client, obviously this depends on your industry, it would probably be Google Ads and the search network. Gabby, do you have anything to add to that, or why you think that too?
Well, if you think about it, everyone is on Google. I mean, how many times do we search something on Google, or whenever we're interested in looking for a product or a service, we usually just go on Google. So everyone is on Google regardless. So it's definitely one of the best ways to get to your customers, and you're targeting by keywords and you're targeting by intent. So it's easier to get to that person that is actually interested in what you're offering.
Exactly. And I think, in terms of the cost per acquisition or cost per conversion, we often found that it's the lowest. So if you think about a TV ad that you might run for, let's say $5,000 a week for a quarter, whatever you have planned in your marketing budget, you don't really have a way to gauge where if people are coming from there unless you have a specific phone number or landing page. But with Google Ads too, with the search network, you can drill down to the exact keyword, how somebody converted, where they converted on your website. I think even the time of day, there's just all kinds of reporting along with the Google Ads search network. So I think that just kind of supplements why, if we were to recommend one out of everything, it would be, Google Ads, search or pay-per-click.
Especially for the targeting, is very, you can narrow down and really, really target the people that you're interested in.
Yeah, exactly. And then to segue into the next topic we wanted to go over was when we run a pay-per-click campaign, there are all kinds of things that, we want to turn the campaign on, ads are showing, clicks are happening, people are converting. That's, the ideal scenario. But we have run into instances before with some of our previous clients and even for ourselves where we found that maybe a pay-per-click campaign might not have been performing the way that it could. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what those roadblocks might be. So when we look at a pay-per-click or search campaign, there are a few different variables. Obviously, there's the keyword, which is number one. There's the ad copy, so the ad itself that gets shown on the search engine results page. And then there's the landing page. There are extensions and all kinds of things. So if you're running into an instance where your pay-per-click campaigns might not be performing, first thing that we always look at is the landing page. That's usually culprit number one. So if a campaign is getting really high click-through rate, but no conversions, that's usually where the landing page comes in, which means that it might not be relevant enough. Or I know, Gabby, you've worked on several campaigns where we've had to make a lot of tweaks to a landing page, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, just use the same terms, the same keywords that you're trying to target on Google on the landing page. Because if someone is looking, for example, you're running a campaign or a specific survey, or a massage or something like that, and people click on your ad and they land on a page where you're not talking about massages, you're talking about waxing, or you're talking about other services, people are just going to think, oh, I probably click on the wrong thing, and that's why they go away. So if you're talking about massage and you're doing a campaign targeting for that service, then you have to work your way around it or have the wording on your landing page talking about that service. honestly, the more specific you get on your landing page, the better, because people are looking for a specific thing when they click on your ad. So just give them information on whatever that thing that they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And we always find that if it depends on your goal. So if you're a company that sells products online, where you're going to want that person to land is on a page where, depending on the keyword they searched for, that page is filled with products that they searched for. They can add it to their cart. They can quick buy or quick purchase. And then if it's something where you're trying to generate leads, maybe it's the landing page has information about that service related to that keyword, and maybe there's some sort of downloadable piece of content you can offer if they submit their information to you. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. And so typically, as I mentioned, if there's a high click-through rate on your ads, but a low conversion rate, definitely take a look at your landing page first and make sure that there are no tweaks that you need to make there. A couple other roadblocks that I've encountered, which ties right into the next topic, is the budget. So the wonderful thing about Google Ads and the search network is that your budget is very flexible. If you want to spend $50 a month, you can do that. If you want to spend $5,000 a month, you can do that. But you really need to consider, are you going to have a budget that is impactful enough? Are you going to be able to compete in the same space as your local competition? So a really good example of this is the web design industry. So obviously Atlas, we're a web design and digital marketing company. And what we found is that the keywords that we would run for ourselves are very expensive. So on a cost per click basis, we're looking at maybe $15 to $20 a click, which is pretty significant compared to some other industries where you can like a click would be like 50 cents or something like that. So when you consider the industry that you're in, for us, for example, $100 a month budget isn't going to make any sense because it's a very expensive competitive space. So when you're defining your marketing budget, you really need to make sure from a pay-per-click side that you're able to compete where everybody else is. I won't get into all the details about how the Google Ads auction system works, but the amount that you're willing to pay per click is definitely a factor. And if I were to give a blanket starter budget, I would say that the minimum that you'd want to invest if you're running a Google Ads search campaign, I would definitely say at least $500 a month. That will go up and down, maybe depending on where you are, what you have available to you. But I would say to make any sort of significant impact, $500 a month is a minimum. Wouldn't you say, Gabby, too?
Yes, I do agree with you. $500 would be a good starting point because the cost per click can go up depending on the competitors that you have around you and obviously based on your industry, but that's definitely a very good starting point.
All right. Well, that was our quick kind of 5-minute video about marketing budgets and common roadblocks. So we always have resources on our blog. You can check us out at atlas.com/blog. And then if you have any comments or questions, just leave a comment below and we'll get back to you. So thanks for watching and we'll see you next month.